The anxious generation. What children need to do in childhood. Have you noticed how much social interactions have changed since smartphones became common?
Absolutely. It seems like kids are more glued to their screens than ever before.
Right. In 2007, texting was limited and mostly one on one. Now, it's like they live in a digital world.
I read that by 2015, many adolescents spent most of their waking hours on their phones, interacting online instead of in person.
Exactly, and this shift could impact their social skills and emotional development.
That makes sense. It seems like they miss out on important face-to-face interactions.
Definitely. Social life is crucial for building relationships and learning empathy. Slow growth childhood.
You know, it's fascinating how human children grow at such an unusual pace compared to other species.
Absolutely. Unlike chimpanzees, who grow steadily and reach maturity quickly, our kids grow fast, then slow down, and then have another growth spurt during puberty.
Right, and by age 5, a child's brain is already about 90% of its full size. That's pretty remarkable.
It is. This long childhood likely evolved to allow for cultural learning, which is essential for our survival as a species.
Exactly. As we started using tools and cooking with fire, our brains grew bigger while our jaws and guts got smaller.
And this change meant that those who could learn and adapt were more successful than the strongest or fastest individuals.
So, the extended childhood gives kids time to learn from their environment and their community, right?
Yes, it's like a cultural apprenticeship, allowing them to absorb knowledge before they are treated as adults.
And it's interesting that evolution has also given children motivations for free play, attunement, and social learning.
Indeed. But nowadays, kids are often drawn into the virtual world, instead of engaging in unsupervised play, which can impact their learning. Free play. Have you ever thought about how vital play is for children?
Absolutely. I've read that play is actually the work of childhood.
Right. Studies show that young mammals, including humans, need to play to wire up their brains properly.
That's fascinating. It seems like play helps with social, cognitive, and emotional skills.
Exactly. Without play, children can come out socially and emotionally impaired.
I heard that through play, children learn essential skills for adulthood, like cooperation and conflict resolution.
Yes, and they learn from trial and error in a low stakes environment, which is crucial for their development.
So, free play is really about children directing their own experiences, right?
Exactly. Peter Gray defines it as activity chosen and directed by the participants for its own sake.
That makes sense. I guess physical play with other kids is the best kind for their growth.
Indeed, it teaches them about risks and how to take care of themselves and each other.
And mistakes during play aren't costly, which helps them learn without fear.
A play-based childhood involves kids interacting in real-world environments, fostering relationships and social skills. This is backed by anthropological reports from Gray.
That makes sense. But what about the rise of smartphones and social media? How does that fit in?
Great question. The shift to phone-based childhoods has led to a decline in unstructured playtime. Surveys show that time spent with friends dropped significantly when smartphones became popular in the early 2010s.
So, what are the consequences of this shift?
The consequences can be significant. Adolescents are becoming brand managers of their own lives on social media, which can lead to anxiety and chronic social comparison. Attunement. You know, attunement is crucial for children, especially in their early years.
Really? How does that work?
Well, children are wired to connect with adults through shared emotions and movements. It starts with simple games of turn taking.
That makes sense. I've noticed how much my child laughs when I play with them.
Exactly. Those interactions create a feedback loop that fosters attachment. Infants can mimic facial expressions, which is vital for bonding.
I've heard smartphones can disrupt that connection. Is that true?
Yes, a Pew Research study found that 17% of parents are often distracted by their phones when with their kids.
Wow, that's concerning. So, what happens if children miss out on attunement?
Children deprived of this experience often struggle with emotional regulation later in life. They can have difficulty forming healthy attachments.
That's really eye-opening. So, what role does play have in all of this?
Play is essential. NSE of community. As children age, they find joy in synchrony, like singing or jumping rope together. It fosters a sense of community.
I love that. It sounds so important for building connections.
Absolutely. Collective rituals and shared activities are universal across cultures and help renew trust and social bonds. Research indicates that synchronous movement, like swaying to music together, can enhance trust and cooperation among groups.
That makes sense. When kids engage in face-to-face interactions, they develop better social skills.
Yes, but social media often promotes asynchronous interactions, which can feel more like work than play.
I can see that. Many kids feel pressured to create content and keep up, leading to anxiety.
Indeed, and it's not just the time spent, it's the quality of those interactions that matters.
So true. It's like they're losing the ability to communicate effectively in person.
And when they rely on emojis instead of real expressions, it can lead to misunderstandings. Social learning. Have you noticed how social media impacts adolescents' learning and behavior?
Absolutely. I've seen how quickly my child picks up trends from peers online.
It's fascinating. Research shows that children often choose role models beyond their parents to learn from.
That makes sense. They want to find the best examples in their community, right?
Exactly. According to Boyd and Richardson, strategies like conformist bias help children adapt quickly to new environments.
So, when they start middle school, they may feel pressure to conform to what their peers are doing, like getting an Instagram account.
Yes, social media acts as a conformity engine, shaping behaviors in hours instead of years.
That's incredible. They can scroll through thousands of posts and learn what's popular almost instantly.
And there's also prestige bias. Kids tend to copy those they view as successful or skilled in certain areas. Studies show that over 50% of adolescents feel pressure to present a perfect image online.
That's alarming. It seems like they are more focused on gaining followers than developing real skills.
Right. The rise of influencers has changed the dynamics of mentorship. Young people often look up to those who are famous for being famous.
And this shift started with figures like Paris Hilton and Kim Kardashian, who became known for their presence rather than their accomplishments.
Yes, Kim Kardashian has over 364 million followers, which sends a message that popularity can come from social media fame.
It's concerning how this affects young girls' and boys' understanding of masculinity and femininity, pushing them toward extreme ideals.
Indeed, many Gen Zs are now modeling their behavior after these influencers, which can lead to anxiety when they can't measure up.
It's a tricky situation. The very platforms designed for connection might be undermining real-life relationships and mentorship opportunities.
Exactly, the ancient link between excellence and prestige is being severed, and that can have long-term implications for their development. Expectation brains and sensitive periods. You know, brain development in children is fascinating, especially during their adolescence.
Really? What makes it so important?
Well, it's often referred to as experience expectant development. Certain brain areas become highly adaptable during specific life stages.
That sounds intriguing. Are there specific times when this is most critical?
Absolutely. We have what's called sensitive periods. For example, language acquisition is easiest before puberty.
I've heard that kids can pick up multiple languages effortlessly. Is that true?
Yes, children under 12 can become native speakers without an accent, while older kids struggle to fit in linguistically.
That's amazing. What about cultural learning? Does that also have a sensitive period?
Exactly. Research shows that cultural identity can be shaped significantly between ages 9 and 15, especially when moving countries.
So, if kids experience a new culture during that time, it impacts their sense of self?
Yes, studies indicate that children who immerse in a new culture during their sensitive period often feel emotionally attached to that culture.
That's really insightful. It seems like those experiences can leave a lasting imprint.
Definitely. The concept of imprinting in animals illustrates this perfectly, as seen with young birds following their mothers. Studies show that identity and emotions can develop very differently online compared to real life.
That makes sense. I heard that Gen Z has worse mental health outcomes than millennials.
That's true. Gen Z is the first generation to experience puberty and cultural learning primarily through smartphones.
I read about a British study that found significant negative effects of social media on kids aged 10 to 15.
Yes, the study led by Amy Orban highlighted that younger teens are more negatively impacted by social media use.
So, for girls, the worst years seem to be between 11 and 13, right?
Correct. And for boys, it's around 14 to 15. It's a critical time for their mental health.